Hey, I'm Anita Susan Binze from Bangalore, and I'm going to be with you for the next 30 minutes. I hope we could stick out together. Let's get started. Yes, maybe we'll start off with a story. Is it fine? Cool. So here goes a story. Long time ago, in a country, they were celebrating a special year in the history of their country. And they wanted to make this year super special, and they had a lot of plans laid out for it. One among the plans was to release a stamp, a super special stamp which is so unique, in memory of this eventful year of their country. So the stamp was designed, it was printed, and it was released. After the release, people started getting it, and only then the committee who was in charge of making the stamps, they realized, oops, we've made an error, and this being a special year and the stamps supposed to be so special, we cannot do away with an error, and so we need to get it back. So the country makes an announcement saying all those people who got the stamp, kindly come and give it back, and we're extremely sorry for it. We would rectify the mistake and give it back to you. So people are like, yeah, why do we need a faulted stamp? It's of no use, so let's return it and get the new one. So they all returned the stamp to the country, and the committee started on their work to release the perfect right stamp. But it so happens that during this time, the country hits with a huge crisis, and the focus of the country completely changes to meet the needs of the crisis, and the celebration was called off. So the stamp did not get released. However, many years later, an organization decided to host a huge exhibition, and the attractive part about this exhibition was that they announced anybody who possesses something very unique that only they have would get a huge amount of money as a reward for their collection. It so happens that one among those people who got the reward was a person who belonged to this country which I mentioned about earlier. Apparently, he alone did not give the stamp back. He did not feel the need to give the stamp back, the faulted stamp, so he kept it with him. And because the new release of the stamp did not happen, it turns out to be that this man was the only man who possessed this particular stamp. And therefore, he turns out to be a rich man with this huge sum of money that he gets as reward. This is just a story of an imperfectly perfect stamp who played such a huge role in the life of this man. Have you ever wondered, do we have imperfections in our life, in the things of our life? If we have imperfections, are these imperfections perfect? Do they seem perfect to us? And if we've looked at these imperfectly perfect things of our life, have you found a reason for them in our life? I'm sure neither of us want motivation, right? So let's come to reality and talk about the real stuff. Is that okay? Can you bring to your mind the imperfections that you think you have? It could be physical imperfections, emotional, intellectual, whatever. In your life you think, why this with me? Or why is it like this? Or it could have been like that. Such kind of things can you bring to your mind? Now can you try to think, is there any reason why I need to call this imperfection as perfect? Or has there been any good with these imperfections in my life? If you're really interested in this, maybe you can pause the video for some time and try to bring these into your mind. If you write it down in three levels, it might be very helpful for you. That's up to you. Anyways, um, maybe I would try to bring to your notice a few of the imperfections that I have, which I hated, but later I found the perfectness in those imperfections and I found a reason for it. Um, okay, where do we start? Alright, when you look at me, the first thing that's going to your mind could be, why is she bald? Right? So, this is a huge struggle that I had. I had been losing my hair since I was my 8th grade. So, for the past 10 odd years, I've been dealing with this issue and it used to trouble me a lot. Every morning, when I stand in front of the mirror, I cry. Every night, as I lie on my bed, I cry, asking, why am I like this? Why can I not have hair? Why can't just God just give me some hair and make me look beautiful? This was a struggle that I had, and I hated it. I just could not accept this until recently. But last year I went in for a treatment and I got my head shaved at the age of 24. Being a woman, I got my head shaved and it was a huge thing in my life. I used to cry asking why me, why is this happening to me? But now when I turn back and look at the events related to my hair, a lot of big and small things have happened just because of my hair over the past 10 years. But when I look at it, I can very confidently say this is a perfect imperfection that God has put in me. It is only because I struggled with this hair loss that I think I am empathetic enough to understand the issues of other people. If I was perfect, I'd have been like, what's the big deal in it? I would have never understood what another person is going through within because of their imperfections. I would have never been able to understand people. I would have never been empathetic to them. And I told you I got my head shaved. That was a big event in my life, I would say. By nature, I'm a very sensitive person who cries for every other thing. Anybody says anything, anything happens anywhere, I start crying. But this phase where I had to get my head shaved and I had to face the world with a shaved head was when I started becoming a bold woman. Without me knowing, God was just forming me. Now I can stand on my feet. I can talk to people looking at their eyes. I don't really get upset over tiny things. I am in control of my emotions. And this was possible in my life only because I had an hair issue. And now I actually like this hairstyle of mine. Initially, I got it shaved because of my treatment, but now I do it because I like to do it. So that was how I find this imperfection of not having hair becoming the most perfect thing in my life, which has made me a better person. Or yeah, when I finished my masters, it was a big dream that I had that I want to get a job placement through college itself. It's a matter of pride, and I really tried for it. I joined a course with a lot of dreams, but things did not fall in my favor. And I was like, why am I so dumb? Why am I not getting a job? I tried, nobody's able to understand me when I talk about the things that I want to do. I felt even more humiliated about it. But and I stayed back at home for a few months. But I would again say that was the best thing that happened to me because it was only because I stayed back at home during that time. It was only because I did not get a job did I start looking at the things that I have, the talents that I have, the skills that I have. I explored, I experimented with myself, with the things in my life, and I found a new person in me, a lot of good things in me which are of good potential, and I can use it. I was able to find the person called me, and it happened only because I did not get a job. Or maybe one more example. Um, I'm not a brilliant student. Okay, not very bad also. Quite good. But for the first time in my life, I failed when I was doing my bachelor's In my second year, fourth sem, I happened to fail for a math paper. It was much more than I could take. When I got to know that I failed, the first thing that went to my mind is, okay, maybe I should end my life. Like, how can I face the world? How can I fail? How can I be a failure? It might be silly for some of you, but for me, it was a huge thing. And I found it really difficult to handle that issue. The whole of my final year, I shied away from people. I did not go to my HOD at all. I was scared to enter the maths department for this fear of what would people say, how would people see me. But now when I look back, one, I cleared the subject with distinction later. But I would say it was only because I failed for that paper that day. Do I know what it is like to have a failure in life? What it feels like to be in that position? Why do people fail? What happens being an educator? I think this helped me understand students, how they feel and why such things happen at a greater level. So I'm sure I can go on with experiences after experiences, but my point here is, if you really wish to, when you look into the events or the things of your life, you will find imperfections, but you will also be able to find perfectness in those imperfections, and even more beautiful, you will find a reason for it. As I said earlier, we all have imperfections. But if you are able to embrace these imperfections, if you are able to embrace these failures and faults in us, we're going to be able to see our imperfections with a whole new lens. We're going to be able to see things in an entirely different manner, which is going to change our attitude towards the things of our life.
Hey, now can you just try to pause your video for a while and try answering these questions? I'm sure it's going to help you.
Suppose you actually paused the video and took some time out to think about those imperfections in your life, and you wrote about it, or at least you have it in your mind. You would have noticed that few of the imperfections, when you see, you'd be like, no, it wasn't my fault, it was done to me. It became this way because of him or her, or because of what they did to me. We all have such situations and such people in our life. But over here, we have two choices. One, we can blame those people for what they did to us, curse our lives for being like this, and we can live and die as a victim to the situation or to these people. Or the second option would be, yeah, be aware of what happened, why, who, what, yes, but stop not there. Instead, try to take control of it. Take power over yourself, because we are not defined by what others did to us or what happened to us. We are way beyond that. The day we stop seeing ourselves as a victim to XYZ situation or people is the day we start living our life. There's a struggle that most of us have when we say, yeah, it's because of them or it's because of us. I deserve this. I don't deserve anything good. We victimize ourselves. Apparently, it said adoption of victimhood is the greatest disaster that could happen to the human psyche. However, it is good to be aware of things. Be aware of why this is this way or what happened. Because when we are aware of things, take power to either change it if there are things that can be changed, or at least we reach a state where we can accept things. So it is good to be aware of things. For example, say I'm an introvert, I really get uncomfortable with people, and therefore I have no friends in my life at all. Probably, if I look back to my life, I might find or I might be able to realize that I come from a broken family. Say, suppose I come from a broken family and my parents were not able to take care of me, so I was put in some relative's house where I was not really taken care of or loved or cared for. Therefore, I grew up with this state of not being loved at all. And eventually, it so happened that I started getting uncomfortable with people, or I started hating the presence of people. Or, say, every time I get angry or frustrated or irritated, um, I feel the need to masturbate. Probably it would be that during my early days, I was actually abused by someone. I hated that experience. That experience tortured me, got me angry, got me frustrated, got me sad. And eventually, in order to avoid these feelings or to get away or to fill the voidness in me, I started filling myself with these pleasures of masturbation, and thus I got addicted to it. Or say I have a fear of public speaking. Every time I go on stage, I freeze and I cannot talk. If you look back, it might be that maybe when I was a child, I went on stage to speak and I was humiliated, I was laughed at, I was hooted. And so from then, this fear has been in me, which is why every time I go on stage, I feel like, no, I might not be able to do it. But the point here is, as I said, we have two choices. If you're just going to be like, oh, I'm like this because of that, because of what he did, I'm doing this to me. We can live as a victim, or the other part, the other choice is, yes, oh, this is why I do this. So this is my fear, or because of that, I'm doing this to me. No, I don't want to do it anymore. You're taking control of yourself, you're taking power over yourself, over the situation. Here, you're not being a victim, but you are becoming a survivor.
Hey, here's the next one. Can we try doing this as well?
Once we've reached this level of acceptance and we are in peace with the past, then the next phase is to love. For some of us, love comes very naturally, but for some others, we resist every kind of love. But the truth is that we're all born to love and to be loved. Because until we love, we're never going to be able to know who we even are. We might be able to live, we might appear to be alive, but in reality, we would be dead. Because it's a human desire. Every human being has this huge desire to love and to be loved. It's our greatest need, and we need to give ourselves that if we want to live our life to the fullest. Of course, we're all not going to be loved by everybody. Nobody is ever loved by everyone. But still, there would be at least a few people who loves us for who we are and is genuinely interested in our good. We need to try to find them. When I look into my life, I would say I love a lot of people, but there are very few people whom I really, really love, and I'm so sure that they love me for who I am. And it is to these people that I share my innermost thoughts, my desires, my dreams. It's they who celebrates my success, my achievements, and it's also to them that I go and talk about my weaknesses, my failures, my shame, my addictions, because I know for a fact that they are not going to judge me. Rather, they are the people who are going to push me and challenge me to become the best version of myself. If you have such relationships, cherish them and hold them tight. And if you have still not found them, maybe we need to try to find them. Because the me factor is never going to be complete with just me. It needs an element of God, it needs an element of relationships as well. Only when we have such beautiful relationships in our life is our life going to be a thriving life. Is it going to reach its fullness? Some of the things that we've touched upon so far are accepting our imperfections, uh, coming in peace with our past, rising above victimhood, knowing the beauty and nature of love and relationships. Once this much is done, it's like the ground is set. Since the ground is set, we can sow what we want to reap. We need to think, what is that I want to reap out of my life? Um, until I completed my bachelor's, I hadn't really thought about anything different from the usual. I mean, everyone goes to sleep, so do I. Everyone wakes up, so do I. Everyone goes to school and college, so did I. Everyone studied to get a job and then earn money. I too went ahead with that focus. But when I completed my bachelor's, I had taken a year break and I served as a GC youth full timer. So I was placed in Thailand and I had different roles there. And one among the roles were as a teacher. I was an adult educator for refugees. So these refugees were people who came from countries like Iraq, Iran, Somalia, Ethiopia. I have read about the situations in these countries through books and articles, but this was the first time that I was actually talking to these people from these countries. And when talking to them, I realized my life was way too different. It was like a huge shake for me, and it left me wondering, the situations of my life are so different, but what have I done with my life that's different? During the time, I was also serving as a volunteer in a care center for specially challenged children. And there were children here as small as 3 and 4 to about 12, 13. And they were here because they were special and their parents did not want them. That was the next shake for me where I started wondering, I have been blessed with so many gifts, but how have I even used these gifts in my life? And towards the end of my full-timership, for a month, I stayed in Arunachal Pradesh. And this was the time the Bangalore bubble for me was broken. I understood how different life was in a place like this. And here I had the third shake where I started wondering, how can I be instrumental in bringing about a change in somebody's life, in making somebody's life better? This 1 year had a lot to teach me, and I decided I want to do something in my life. I want to find the purpose of my life, the reason for my existence. And so the first thing that I did was I started writing down the good things in me, like my strengths, my abilities, my talents, my opportunities, my possibilities. I started writing them all down one by one. And once this was done, I understood just knowing the good side of it alone wouldn't be sufficient. I need to know the other side of it as well. So then I started writing about the not so good things of my life, like my weaknesses, my failures, my faults, the things that I can't do, the things that I struggle with. All of this was my next task. And once this much was done, I realized that I have a God sized hole in my heart. And for this hole to be filled, I need to live the purpose of my life. And for that, I had to find my genius. What's the genius? The author Matthew Kelly defines genius in one of his books as that one thing that only you can do so different from the rest. So, to find my genius, I have to find what are my innermost desires, my innate talents, and my legitimate needs, because these three together forms the genius. So let's take the innermost desires. We all have desires, and each of our desires are different. Our desires could be I want to travel around the world, or I want to play music, or I want to become a speaker, or I want to serve the people. We all have different desires. So, what's my desire? Second, what's my legitimate need? Of course, food, clothing, and shelter is the base, but we all have needs, legitimate needs about that as well. Needs like, I want to be heard, I want to be understood, I want to be loved, I want to love people, I want to have relationships. Um, each of our needs could be very different, but this is what makes up me. So, what are those needs of mine? And lastly, what are my innate talents? When we say talent, most often we stop it with singing, dancing, speaking. No, talents could be way beyond that as well. It could be uh, I can smile really well, or I have a good physical stamina, I can do manual work, or I can organize things well, I can understand people, I can listen to people. Our talents can be very, very different and unique, but that's your innate talent, your best ability. So once we know these three, that's our innermost desires, our innate talents and abilities, and our legitimate needs, it forms our genius. This would give us a clarity as to what's our purpose, what is that I need to do in my life. Now, this next question would be, how do we find all this? From where do we get answers to this? But I think, okay, as Paulo Coelho says in his book, The Alchemist, your greatest treasures are hidden deep within yourself. So all you need to do is look within yourself to find answers to these. Once you find them, you know where you need to march to. Awesome! If you've been successful enough to get in here, now there's no turning back. We're going to be like three kings who had their focus on the star and kept traveling. I'm not really sure if you got the time to pause the video and reflect on those stars, but I would really recommend if you could spend some time for it, if you could reflect on it. It's going to really help you. Your life is going to be different. It's not just plain motivation. I don't mean of your life is going to flip, but the way you live life is going to be different because you would be aware of yourself much more. You would be able to cherish even the tiniest moments of your life. All that I shared through is a journey that I actually went through. I mean, the step by step, how I took forth life, how I've been journeying, and the kind of life that I'm living. With that, I can vouch it's worth a try. So maybe you need to give a try for it. Yeah. I'm reminded of a quote which says like this there are just two important days in a person's life. One is the day you're born, and two, no, not the day you die. It's a day you know why you were born. So embrace every little imperfection of yours because it's those imperfections that makes you perfect. And also try to believe that nothing happens without a reason because our God makes no mistakes. So don't settle down, don't be a victim to anything, rise above, take power, take control of the situations and of yourself. There's also a saying which goes like this: the life that you live today is because of the choices that you made yesterday. So try to make the right choices, try to live a life that is thriving, that's so very full, and cherish every moment of your life. I wish you all the very best and God bless you.